One of the things that made me interested in procedural textures with Affinity Photo was this one right here. So I'd been using the Perlin noise for a while to create some different effects, but when I looked at this one, I could see that this has more capability than regular Perlin noise. If you turn this all the way down, it's basically like regular Perlin noise, but then you can stretch it out. You can add, so that's more turbulence. You can adjust the way the turbulence is working, and you can do a lot of other different effects with this. So that's really fascinating to me. I think this shows some of the power that you get out of these procedural textures. But to get started, I'm just going to look at, in this video, I'm going to look at all of the presets for procedural textures. So I'm going to go, so I've started with, I'll just cancel that. Started with the basic picture. I have my background picture here. I'm going to go into filters. I'm going to go to colors and then down to procedural textures all the way at the bottom. Okay, and let's look at the presets. So the first one is just to reset it to empty, which is like that. The next one are channel adjustments, so let's look at that. So I can swap red and green. So if I look up here, it's you can start to understand what it's doing now. So the green channel is being assigned to the red channel, and the red channel is being assigned to the green channel. So you could assign red to both green and blue, or just to one of those. And you could change this to a B to get the blue channel assigned to something else. Okay, so that's that one. Next one is to invert the red. So I know that the red variable goes from 0 to 1. 0, the red is off. At 1, it's the highest point. And so if I take 1 minus the red value, it will basically invert the red. You could also try assigning the inverted red to both the red and green channels, or just the green channel. And you can try experiment with that to see what sort of goofy effects that can create. Next one is metallic. Okay, and this one has a few different sliders, so it looks a little metallic there, but I could bring this up and add more bands to make it more metallic looking. So you can go through with these and play with the different ones. Now the next category is basic shapes. So those are all altering the image. These are going to generate shapes. So the first one is checkered, and so that gives you a basic checker pattern, and it's generating 25 checkers based on the width. So I think it's fitting 25 checkers in the width of this, but since it starts in the center, you get a half a checker on each end. So if I bring this down, just to experiment with it a little bit, see how it's behaving. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now up here, since they're square and my document is not square, that doesn't work. So I noticed it has the letter W in here. This must be an internal variable, and I'm wondering if I set this one to the height, what would be a good variable for that? It turns out H is a good variable for the height, and then if I click somewhere else to apply that, yeah, it makes my rectangles fill this space. Right now all 3 channels are set to this, so it's converting everything to purely black and white, but you could turn off one of the channels and then you can see your picture in the background. Okay, next one is smooth bars, And so these have sort of fade gradually from one to the other, and you can control the size of that. It also is divided by W, so that's controlling the number of bars that you have. So if you bring this down, you get that many of those bars. You could also just do it to certain channels to do something like that. And again, these may not seem that useful, but I'm mostly interested in understanding how these different functions work so that I could use them to create interesting things. Here's smooth squares, similar to the other one. And this one uses, this function is OSC, which to me means oscillator. So this is a smooth oscillator. And if we look back at the checkered, that was OSCI, so I think sort of an integer oscillator. Okay, all right, next one is the waves, and so this uses the sine function. So sinusoidal waveforms, again, you can change that, or you could change like put a 2 times in here to change the frequency like that, or you could change the multiply it by a bigger number to change the amplitude, or that's the thickness of them. And then you can go around and try adding different things. If you know about the sine function, you can change the frequency, the amplitude. Here's the amplitude here. And then it started repeating, so that's why it's more complicated than a regular sine function. It's going sine both horizontally and vertically to sort of create this shape. Okay, so that's waves, and then we have a sine wave. It's just a basic sine wave, like that or that. And then we have overlapped sine waves, and you can play with this to control the how separated they are. Okay, and then this controls the frequency. Random squares. And now we can look in here and see, okay, there's some stuff in here. I don't understand this yet, so it's got floor and sine and noise, and it's a formula they've set up to create this type of pattern. Here's our simple Perlin noise, so your basic, and then here's Perlin noise with sliders, so similar to the one in the filters menu. And then thin clouds, which doesn't have too much control on it. But there it is. And then there's ripples. And this one has, so they're calling it turbulence. So that's interesting because I'd seen turbulence before up here in the liquefy persona. And then here's fur. This is great for generating some interesting textures. And then here's lava. So I was trying to do a lava effect, and this one has nice turbulence in here, already built in. So that's pretty cool. And then you can also apply this factor to it. Oils, okay, makes a sort of an oily texture. So these could maybe be texture mapped. Some of these textures could be texture mapped onto a picture. If I just turn this off, it doesn't look like much, but if you use it correctly, you could do something with these. There's some mono swirls, droplets. This is urban camouflage. and you can go through these on your own and look at them all. Now we have colored patterns, so they just have one marble, but you could create a lot of stone like patterns. That would be real easy to do that, and I'm not too fond of this particular one they have in the presets, but I've generated this type of pattern before, so that would be cool. And they have lighting. So it has this debump, a dot and a debump, and so there's a simple bump map lighting, and then they have simple bump map lighting negated. Okay, and so those are all of the basic, those are all the presets that they have in the procedural texture. Okay, let me know if you have any comments or questions on that.